topics of the report includes climate-informed decision-making, integrating climate in the budget process, electrification of ground vehicles, and hybrid propulsion for Navy ships. I think they've lost the plot here, Mark.
This is just tragic, sad, horrendous if you actually care about national security threats. Beginning in about 1990, and there's actually a chart in the 32-page report from the Navy Department, it shows the Navy started paying what you'd call lip service or value, whatever it's called, lip service to the climate agenda. They started talking about sustainable fleets and electric, a couple things electric. But under Joe Biden, it has now become, as the report states, the focal point of the Secretary of Navy's Secretary Del Toro's entire purpose in his tenure as secretary. It is incredible. And you look at some of what the undersecretary has said in this report. They're going on and they're talking about, to remain the world's dominant force, we must adapt to climate change and reduce the threat. Their mission is fighting climate change. It's no longer going after rogue regimes, bad guys, defending the shores of the United States, whatever in our national interest. It's actually fighting this nebulous concept of climate change. I don't know how to say it. And it's an incredible same day report came out. We have, by the way, the lowest hurricanes ever recorded in all the database in the last year. And this is also just at a time when we're facing the Russian invasion of Ukraine and all of our military threats there. But somehow we're pivoting back to climate change. And the State Department goes along with this. The Army goes along with this. They have their own reports on climate. But the Navy may get the award for the most all in on climate, making it the focal point of the focus of their whole department.
Yeah, I think that electric cars are a curiosity. They're a luxury for people who want a virtue signal. I'm fascinated by Elon Musk, and I try and cheer for the guy, especially his anti-woke comments lately. But regular people don't buy Teslas, not just because they're expensive, but because they don't really work that well. You have to charge them all the time. They would never work in the frozen Canadian North, for example. It's still a rather experimental technology, and I'm not as against it as I think I once was. But the idea that turning the Navy into an electric Navy is a goal in itself, that is what, and that you're fighting not other navies, but you're fighting climate change, as if you could just launch a missile at climate change and stop it. This really feels like a bad term paper at a woke Ivy League college. This does not seem like it's a serious document designed to win wars.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening, not just in our Navy and in our Army and Pentagon, but also in corporate America and sporting. Why does the NBA have to comment on a police shooting? Why does Disney have to comment, on trans issues? It's because they have now taken it upon themselves to push a progressive agenda. But it's almost funny when you're dealing with a company doing it, but it's scary when you look at a United States arm of our military literally going all in and saying it's the existential threat, it's the focal point of our mission. And again, it's going to have real consequences. They're talking about electric vehicles, electric battleships, and all other sorts of amphibious assault ships. And the question is this really doable, or are they just talking about one or two that they can have for PR photo ops? Well, I think that's more likely, but it's going to be a big diversion of time, energy, manpower, strategy, because as they're focusing on all climate and virtue signaling, they're not actually looking at real threats out there. And that's what's so unbelievable. I mean, all of these people should be disqualified immediately by calling climate change a greatest existential threat, and we're going to make it our focal point. And the opposite, Ezra, when you look at the actual data, Center for Strategic International Studies, cooler periods have brought the most conflict, the most wars. That is the part you worry about if you're going through. When we have warm times like the medieval climate optimum, warm times like today, they're called optimums because that's when you have huge agricultural output, peace, plenty. When you have cold times, you have scarcity, droughts, famines, which lead to conflict and war. So the Navy, our military, has it ass backwards. Sorry to use such a crass term, but they have it completely reversed. Cooler times is when you'd worry about a military threat from any climate, not the warming.
But even then, the climate is the background to your job in the Navy. Shoot other boats, shoot down planes, be an aircraft carrier, whatever. Like, I disagree with the Navy that global warming is an existential threat. I think the globe has warmed and cooled over the millennia. And as you point out, the warmer times have been better times in the history of mankind. As our friend Patrick Moore points out, look at the warmer parts of the world, like the equator teems with life. The biggest cities in the world are near the equator. The more you go to the poles, the colder it is, the less there is different species, and the smaller the cities. You don't have 20 million person cities in the Arctic because life is difficult when it's cold.
People like warmth. They migrate to warmth.
But let me say this, even if they were right, which they are not, even if global warming were an existential threat, what's that got to do with the Navy? That might have something to do with, I don't know. The left has a bunch of pretend solutions, from carbon taxes to solar panels, whatever, that purport to be solutions to a problem that I'm skeptical exists. But even if it did exist, what does that have to do with your ability to torpedo another ship, to float an aircraft carrier? For the Navy to say that's their mission, it's got nothing to do with their mission. I think that it's a kind of sabotage. It reminds me of when I forget the name of the general, was talking about how he's studying critical race theory, and he's studying the January 6th insurrection. I want to understand that. Like, I don't know if it's for PR. I don't know if it's undermining. I mean, the left wing hates the military. So maybe if they can't stop it, they can undermine it from within. I don't know.
I think you're absolutely, that's General Milley you're referring to on critical.
General Milley, thank you.
And I think you're exactly right. They hate the military, and the only way they can make it, somewhat acceptable to them is to remake it in their own image. And that's where you mentioned the critical race theory, whether it's trans issues, whether it's now the climate issue. You're exactly right. From a cost-benefit analysis, from an actual mission, just look at a Navy mission, even if we face an existential threat from climate change, nothing the Navy is doing or proposing amounts to anything more than virtue signaling for PR efforts. So the idea that they would somehow be fighting climate change, mitigating it on some level, is laughable, unscientific, nonsense. But yet they do it because they have in their world, and what I mean their world is academia, the media, government, bureaucracy. This stuff matters. If you want a career, this is what you promote. They're all these Navy secretaries, undersecretaries, they're all out doing themselves for the most outrageous, outlandish, and stupid quote about this climate report right now. So if you take a look at Climate Depot, I have all the different quotes from the Navy press release. This is just, this is where we are right now in America. This is our threat. You can't look at this. Also a diversion from inflation, debt, high energy prices, supply chain, lack of meat, gas prices, the whole range of issues facing America. They'd love to come out and talk about such nonsense like this nonstop to get everyone's minds and thoughts off of the real issues we're facing.
That was an excerpt from my daily TV-style show called The Ezra Levant Show. Each weekday, I do a monologue on the news of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest. I read some fan mail or hate mail, depends on which I like more. And we end with a video of the day. You can get it all at rebelnewsplus.com.